Okay, thank you everybody for joining in. There'll be a little bit of distraction because I have to keep admitting people. But you're welcome to this 1 hour session, a webinar organized by the Finance Coach BK platform. Some people around the call know me already, but for those who are joining and who don't know me, my name is Bimbo Komolafe, and I run the Finance Coach financial literacy platform. I will be joined today by Mr. Theo Buffini. I will introduce him properly later. Looking around, I think he's, I would say, the most qualified person to help us kick off this series of webinars. I'm a chartered accountant, also a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria and a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Bankers of Nigeria. I have over 30 years experience in finance and business, and I have worked in oil and gas, I've worked in banking, and then recently I work as a business and financial consultant. I have a passion to help as many people as I can to improve themselves financially, to attain financial excellence, financial freedom, and ultimately grow their wealth. If that's the little we can do to get things better in Nigeria, we would say we have done something. Thank you so much for all that have supported this brand, all those that pushed for it and continue to encourage me to share out of my experience. I welcome you all. Around the call, so many people registered to join us, but I don't know how many we would have eventually. But already now, I think we have about 30 people on the Zoom call. I don't know how many people on Facebook. Today's session, we hope, I know it will be a productive 1 hour. There are people of diverse backgrounds around the call. We all have different experiences, different qualifications, and we're of different ages. But we all have one single thing in common, which is to attain financial freedom and grow our wealth. That's that's the meeting point for all of us this morning. I want to encourage everybody to listen, take notes, and I always say take actions. That's something that you will do after this session, because if you're financially literate and you don't take action, nothing is going to change. If we manage our time very well, some of the experienced people around the call might have a few comments to chip in just in support of our guest speaker today. We also know that we cannot talk about everything today. We can't deal with everything today. So Mr. Theo and I would be available to answer questions that we can't take in the call today. We have also agreed that post today's session, we're going to have modules that can help people address different areas that may be peculiar to their circumstances. I want to ask that, I'm going to mute everybody, but I want to plead that we'll try and keep the noise level low. Now we may say, why the topic? Why did we choose this topic? Apart from the risk to our health that COVID has introduced, the next thing that is really impacted is our finances. Organizations and businesses have been hit. Of course, we know the oil price has crashed, job losses, and from my own point of view, higher cost of living. Things that we could afford easily, everything is doubled in price because we're all under lockdown. Products have become scarce. Medication we heard that medication is not being imported like it should be in Nigeria anymore. So we have been impacted in different ways, but finance is the thing that is central to all of us. We would have been impacted different ways because some of us were better prepared and some of us were not prepared. So the question is, what will today's session do for us? Now we're saying that if you listen carefully and you try to get the most out of this call, you would find ways that you can recover fast and come out of this COVID impact stronger. We also will be able to ask ourselves, as you listen to the guest speaker with his wealth of experience, you ask yourself, could I have been better prepared? Could I have been in a better situation than I am in now? Nobody saw COVID coming, but depending on how disciplined you had been or how knowledgeable you had been, it might be easier to manage the impact. And indeed, good opportunities that are coming out of COVID. Listening to our speaker today, you'll be able to say, oh, this is an opportunity here for me. And then you would also be able to ask yourself questions. You would examine yourself listening to the speaker. You will ask yourself, did I do it well? What didn't I do well? And how can I do it better? And if you're sincere to yourself, you'll be able to take a lot of actions out of this session that would improve you and help your situation. We know 1 hour may be a stretch, but our speaker is going to have 30 minutes to talk to us, and then we will take questions and some comments for 15 minutes, and then we'll wrap up. Depending on how it goes and depending on how our guest speaker wants to handle it, post the 1 hour. If we have so many questions on the table, then we can stretch to an extended question and answer session, and then we would have people who want to listen to that discussion stay back. So without wasting time, sorry, I have to keep admitting people. Without wasting time, I would go to introduce Mr. Theo Buffini. Mr. Theo is a management and financial consultant. He's a trainer, a motivator who specializes in human resource management and general management, financial re-engineering. I don't know how many of you have heard financial re-engineering before, but don't bother to Google it now. After the session, if it makes sense to you. He's also experienced in budget and budget control, project management, and he has over 25 years experience, which cuts across banking, print media, and upstream oil and gas industry. He consults and has consulted widely in Nigeria, in the UK, Dubai, and England. He's a member of 3 professional bodies that I want to tell you about today. I'm sure he belongs to many more. He's a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria and a fellow of the Institute of Corporate Administrators of Nigeria. He's also a member of the Project Management Institute of the United States of America. Mr. Theo has attended several courses. He has attended courses in Oxford University, Harvard Business School, and London School of Economics. If I were to read all of his CV, we'll spend the whole 1 hour. But we have just 30 minutes, so we're just going to go straight to his talk. Mr. Theo, thank you so much for accepting to support the Finance Coach BK brand, giving us a different perspective to managing our personal finances, different from what I have been speaking and teaching my followers online about. Thank you so much. I do not take it for granted that you have chosen to willingly support us today. The floor is now yours for 30 minutes. And I will work with you. Are you on mute? Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Good morning from here in Nigeria. I don't know wherever you are. I hope that you're keeping safe. It's really a pleasure to be with you. I hope that in the next 30 minutes, we'll have good experiences to share with each other. We are all struggling in terms of managing our finances. Being a consultant does not preclude me from the struggles that humans face, in handling our finances. Having said that, please, I plead with all of us to observe all the safety measures that have been introduced by the medical practitioners. It is for our own safety, so that we could get beyond what somebody has said. He says that for things to reveal themselves to us, we need to be ready to abandon our views about them. He says basically that today I implore you to empty our minds about our views, whatever views that you've held concerning managing our personal finances. Money became important after the collapse of the traditional economy. I was born in a remote village somewhere in Nigeria. I grew up experiencing trade by barter, where goods were exchanged to another. As a rural economy, it was fantastic. But of course, we know that trade by barter, the barter trade, had its own limitations. Modernity came with some problems. Basic economics tell us that human needs or human wants insatiable. Before now, as Abraham Maslow told us, that we have the basic needs of clothing, of food, and of shelter. But today we've gone beyond that. We want to build skyscrapers. We want to live in the moon. We want to own the best of life. And that has brought about the rat race, the desire to acquire wealth. Therefore, we are racing against time on how we can meet the various wants that we have that are competing for the little resources that we have. The question that I ask, a lot of us would blame our situations on the witches and wizards or on the old women.
Hello,
or
Mr.
woman
Theo.
that is in the village. Yes?
Mr. Theo.
Yes, please.
Mr. Theo, please, 1 second. Let me clear the noise. Let me mute everybody and then I will unmute you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so you can talk. Can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay, so we can, yeah, thank you very much for all that gave us the feedback. Yeah, so you can please talk. You're the only one now that can talk.
Okay, I was saying that a lot of us begin to wonder what is happening to our finances. We ask all kinds of questions. Is it the witch or wizards or the old women in our villages that are responsible for our financial situations? Or we blame them on our rich brothers, on our sisters, uncles, and friends who have refused to assist us. But as we know, the rich also cry. Everybody is struggling financially. My conclusion or my observation is that our financial situations are caused by the financial choices that we've made over time. And this may be due to lack of financial education or because of some indiscipline or both of them. Some years ago, I was privileged to be in Rome, and I went to an LV shop where I saw some very fantastic shoes. I moved into that corner and the attendant approached me. He looked at me and assessed me and he smiled. The first question he asked me, where are you from? And I said, from Nigeria. And I saw the relaxation on his face. I picked up a pair of shoes and he told me the price and I couldn't afford it. I could not afford it. And that pair of shoes, the list of it was 5,000 euros. And I asked myself, where am I going to that I would wear a pair of shoes for 5,000 naira? But the amazing fact was that the highest patronage that was in that shop. And that was why the guy asked me where I was from. The amazing fact was that it was the Nigerians and the Chinese that were the highest patronage of that shop. And I was amazed. I dropped it and I left the shop because I couldn't afford it. Today, we cannot continue to blame the witches and wizards or the brothers and uncles who also are struggling financially on our financial woes. I am part of it as well. So today's lesson, it's not as if I know it all. We are sharing knowledge. We'll be sharing experiences. Knowledge is readily available. It's readily available everywhere, so there'll be no excuse. Let's look at the concept of financial freedom. As a concept of financial freedom, and what do we mean? What do we understand by financial freedom? What do we understand by financial freedom? And because I'm slightly mathematically inclined, I've come up with a formula, a simple formula. Let's not bother, let's not worry. There would be no calculations, so we don't need our calculators. I'm just going to go through it and explain it to us. And it says FF is equal to TI, either equal to or greater than TE, where FF means the financial freedom and TI is the total income that we all garner, either from a paid employment or some businesses around the corner, or interest income that we earn, the total of everything. And then the TE is a total expenditure. By the way, when I say total income, and in this forum, I'm talking about legitimate income, I like to emphasize that, legitimate income. And TE, it's a total expenditure. So if our FF or the TI is equal or greater than the TE, then we have some form of financial freedom. What do I mean by that? If we earn $1,000, which is a common denominator that I want to use here. If we earn $1,000 a month and our expenditure is $500, it means that we have some savings thereabouts. Our total expenditure is less than the total income. But we become burdened if it's the other way around. If the TI is less or greater, if the TI is greater than the TE. That is to say, the total expenditure is greater than the total income. Then we are in trouble. What do? That means that we are financed by debt, or we are into what we call the deal. This makes us so fret, and then we have sleepless nights and all the other consequences that follow with it. And that's the bottom line. That is what we want to address today. How can we come out of this? That we have sound sleep and we do not fret. But first thing first, health, they say, is wealth. Health, they say, is wealth. This didn't make meaning unto me. This didn't make meaning to me until a few years ago when I was confronted with an ailment that almost took my life. If you are in my age bracket, there was a book called Dead Men Don't Count by James Hadley Chase. When we were growing up, we read James Hadley Chase and Agatha Christie. All those were very interesting books, and they are not available. But there was one particular one that was titled Dead Men Don't Count. Today, the world is at a standstill. Nobody saw it coming. Nobody would ever have imagined that we would be confined to our homes. A few minutes ago, I was talking with a friend of mine, and he says that he called me and asked me where was I, and I joked and I told him I was in London. He said no, that it cannot be. I said, well, I was in London. He said the tables have changed. Today, if you are from London or any other part of the world, people will run away from you. If I'm from my village, then I am safe. So And we are told that the impact is a lot more of COVID-19, a lot more on the elderly and those with medical conditions. But the good news is that someday, coronavirus will come to an end. Someday. We've had several other pandemics in history, and some of it have had devastating effects on humanity. But what do we do? How do we come out of it? How would we be prepared? COVID-19, at the end of it, would offer us opportunities. Are we prepared to take them? But the major personal finance that we need to look at is our health. Our health is more important. And they say that health is indeed wealth. Until we take care of ourselves, let us eat well, let us rest well, avoid self-medication, particularly on this part of the world. Let's avoid self-medication. I'm not a medical doctor, so I am not qualified to speak on this. But let's just be careful, take care of our health. Only the living can make money. Only the living can enjoy the wealth that we have. That's, and let's take a little break and go to consider the inevitability of change. The inevitability of change. Irrespective of all the grammar, everything that we'll say today, if we don't change our attitudes, if we don't change our strategies, we will not achieve anything. Somebody says that if you do something the same way and expect a different result, then we are either fooling ourselves or we are mad. We can't get the same effect. There's a small change formula that I'm introducing here. And it says that change is equal to D multiplied by M multiplied by P multiplied or greater than C. What does it mean? PR is the probability of change. The D is dissatisfaction, and that is key. If we are not dissatisfied with the status quo, we will not move anywhere. If we are not dissatisfied with our present state, our present condition, then there can be no change. So dissatisfaction is very important. We need to sit down to assess our current situation. Am I satisfied with where I am today? If we are not satisfied, then we can apply the principles that we learned today, the principles that are available to all of us. And the D is a model. That's a vision. Where do you want to be financially in 2 years from now, in 6 months from now, in 3 years from now, in 5 years from now? Where do you want to be? Somebody says that all things are created twice. All things are created twice. The physical, the mental picture before the physical. So we need to have a vision of where we want to be. And then the process. And the process of change.
Sorry, Mr. Tio, 1 minute, please. Process check here. Can participant Tosin please go up or put yourself on mute, Tosin? Can you please go up or put yourself on mute? Thank you. Mr. Tio, you can continue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So we need to have a mental picture of where we want to be in whatever time frame that you want to be, next month, next week, 2 years from now, wherever. And then the process. How do you get there? How do you move to achieve that objective, that vision that you've created for yourself? And all of this must be greater than the cost of change. Okay. Then we need to look at the power of recurring income, the power of recurring income. What's the concept of total earning and multiple streams of income? Let us go back to the equation that we had, which is the FF equals to TI, which should be greater than TE. Most of us, maybe including me, are where we are because our take home cannot take us home. It gets finished even at the doorpost, before the exit door of the office. Before we leave the office, it is finished.
Yes, sir.
And why is it so? This could be as a result of lack of financial knowledge, because we don't know the principles that apply. And everything has a principle. Or because of our beliefs. Some of us believe that live your life today, tomorrow may not be there, which is true. But if you live to see tomorrow, what happens? Some people feel that yes, you can exhaust your money today, another one will come. Some of us may have blamed our situations on the low level of income. But I tell you, if we cannot manage the little, we may not be able to manage the much. And then maybe because of financial indiscipline. These are questions that we all need to ask ourselves. Where do I fall into? Is it lack of financial knowledge? Is it our beliefs? Or is it a low level of income that you earn, or financial indiscipline? If we have to do all of this, the major factor is the total income against our expenditure. The total income against our expenditure. That is to say that we need to expand it. We need to expand both the income and decrease our expenditure. There's something we call cost. The demon we call cost. The demon we call cost. And I'm sure that for us that are in the Christian faith, we do not want to hear the word the demon. But it's inevitable. What is cost? Cost is the expenditure, the money that we'll spend. And as a human being that is an adult, even for children, cost is inevitable because we must continue to spend money. We need to spend money to live. And what is the expenditure? The basic expenditure, the food we eat, the houses we live in, the clothes that we wear, the children's education, and all of that. And cost it's divided according to the accountants into the variable cost and the fixed cost. The variable cost and the fixed cost. The variable cost is the cost that you incur on a day-to-day basis. The food, the water, the house, the car fueling, all those are variable. But the fixed costs are things that are fixed on a monthly basis, as the term may be. So if we are able to exceed our income, is able to exceed our expenditure, then we have financial freedom. Some consultants, some people say that we must have a cover of up to 6 months income, a cover of expenditure, and whatever it is, the underlying factor is that we must continue to improve our finances. Now, if the F of the TI or the TE, the expenditure is greater than our income, that means that we are in financial slavery. And most of us are eating from hand to mouth. How do we come about? How do we come out of this? How do we come out of this? Is a question that is critical. A simple analogy that I asked, is how many of us have considered, looked at the cost of watching our television on a monthly basis? I did a little calculation yesterday. For me, my cost is about 18,000 naira a month. And if you multiply that, and I did another multiplication of about 5 years from now, that's a whole chunk of money that is gone off me. Could I have been able to put that money elsewhere? So there is a cost. What about the airtime that we spend? It's important, but are we checking it? So my advice here is that we have to analyze our cost structure. We have to analyze our cost structure. Stop the leakages and the wastages. Stop all the leakages and wastages. Now let's go into the crux of the matter a little bit, the principles of personal finance. Everything in the world is managed by principles. apply the wrong principles and will get the wrong answer. I was reading a book where it was said that the early men tried to fly. They saw the birds and felt that they could also fly. And they got the feathers of birds and made wings. And they tried to flap and they couldn't fly. Until somebody came to realize and found out the principles of flying, and today we can fly. So the most important thing is the mountain within us. We are the problem. The mountain is within us. In the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey says, private victory precedes public victory. If we cannot go back to discipline ourselves, look at ourselves, assess our issues, we will not go anywhere. So after the end of today, it is incumbent on all of us, including me, to sit back and assess how we spend our money. What are the principles? Have a vision of where you want to be financially. Everything, as I said before, was created twice. The mental before the physical. Break it down. Have a plan. How many of us have budgets and financial plans written down even for 2020? Yes, things have changed, but that's why it's a budget. It's a plan and it's subject to changes. So you apply them. Seek knowledge and information. That's the reason why we need to thank Mrs. Komolafe so greatly for giving all of us the opportunity to have this. Remember that money begets money. Money begets money. And that's why they say the rich would always be richer. In the Bible, I was sorry to say, because I know this is a diverse audience, but I like to bring this of the parable of the talents. And it was shown that the man who was given more was able to do more. And that's where we are today. So money begets money. Diversify our incomes. Let us diversify our incomes. Nothing stops us. After coronavirus, the opportunities will come. Let us try to diversify our income so we can have multiple streams of income readily available for us. As I said, this is not a prophecy of doom. I said that the rain will come. Certainly the rain will come, and it does for everyone. It may not be coronavirus. It may be one thing or the other. And when it comes, how are we prepared? And that's the basic question. Understand the principles of compound interest. Understand the principles of compound interest, where you invest some little money. If you put 100 naira or $100 apart today, it will yield something, no matter how small. It's an addition. So we need to understand that principle. Do not spend before you earn your income. Do not spend before you earn. Don't buy unless it is absolutely necessary. Do not buy unless it's absolutely necessary. I had some pairs of shoes when I traveled. The last time I traveled to Rome, I bought pairs of shoes, and that was 5 years ago. There are some of them that are still in my wardrobe, untouched. If I had invested that money into a profitable venture, it would have been able to give me some money. But I didn't do that. And know the difference between price and value. Know the difference between price and value. Time would fail us, so we may not be able to go into details. But at a later time, we would come back to discuss these things in depth. Put something down for tomorrow. Learn to save. It could be 2%, it could be 5%, it could be 10%. And we have a fantastic opportunities around us where women, even amongst the women fold, they come every day, 500 naira. Do that which is convenient for us and that which works. You can discipline ourselves and put it there. Let us not compare ourselves with any other person. And that's where it puts us in trouble. Somebody, my friend is driving a Bentley, and so I want to also drive one. But you don't know how you got that Bentley. Compare yourselves with what you were yesterday. Life is not a competition. Avoid debts like a virus. If coronavirus is killing us as humans, debt will kill our finances. debt will kill our finances unless it is absolutely necessary. It's a life or death matter, or the opportunities of investment are there, and you are sure of repayment. They say the debtor is a slave to the creditor. Live within our means. Let's live within our means. Do not spend based on somebody else's budget, on somebody else's pockets. Track your total income and your total expenditure. How many of us know how much we spend? If that is documented, they may call us names. They may call us different names, but it's good for us. Learn to say no sometimes. Learn to say no sometimes. Let me just give you a simple example of what happened. There's a young man that I used to help financially. And one day he called me and said he was broke. And I said, what happened? He said he's building a house and he has put all his money into the building project. And I stopped and I took a pause and I said, no, I didn't give him money. It may sound harsh. Why should you use your money to build a house and invest it profitably? Yes, but mine is good to be spent on income, for you to feed. I didn't give him the money. So learn sometimes to say no. Do not impress people. All the Asoebi for us in Nigeria, all the Asoebi, all the parties here and there, we can say no. It will not hurt us. Finally, there is something that is more important than money. Something that will generate money for us. Our time. And we all have equal time, 24 hours. Fortunately, coronavirus has restricted us to have a lot of time. We have almost all of us, including me, as I speak with you, I'm speaking from my house. What do we do with our time? Time is money. Invest it profitably and we'll be better for it. Thank you so much, and God bless you. So we can take questions now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Theo. You have used your time so well. I was just going to, at some point, start reminding you of the time that you have. If you have questions, please put your questions on the comment section. I haven't seen anything on the comment section just yet. Thank you very much, Mr. Theo. We're gonna make the slides available to all participants. And like we said earlier on, there's so many resources on the Finance Coach BK website, articles, tips on how you can have financial freedom and financial excellence and how you can grow your wealth. I said earlier that if we had a little bit of time, some of the experienced people around the call will pass a few comments. I'm just going to do a check now before I come back to Mr. Theo with questions. I will check now if Mr. Lawi is on the call, because I wanted him to say a few words. Lawi, are you on the call?
Hello.
Hello. Okay,
Yep.
Thank you for joining us. You know the topic, you heard what Mr. Theo Buffini has said. From your experience, we'll just maybe take a few comments from you, bearing in mind the time that we have. Ladies and gentlemen around the call, I want to introduce Mr. Rotimi Lawi. He's an expert in risk management and internal control, deals with ethics and has extensive experience working for a reputable multinational. So just from your perspective, Mr. Theo has spoken to us and would like to hear from you what you want to contribute.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thanks a lot, Mr. Theo. It's a very extensive presentation. There's nothing to add, just by way of emphasis. And please disregard my camera is not too good. Just by way of emphasis, if I were to sum up everything, I think the starting point is discipline in terms of financial management. without discipline, you cannot manage your finances, whether it's big or small. And there's something that Mr. Tio mentioned. He talked about tracking, and that is the building block. If you cannot track your expenditure, then you cannot know what to manage. If you cannot track your revenue, if you don't know what is coming in, you will not be able to manage it, because what I've learned is before money comes in, you have to have a plan for it. If it is only when the money arrives, and now start asking yourself, what am I going to do with this money? You have already failed. So if there's one thing I would like us to take away, is that you need to find a method that works for you, by which you can track what you spend. You need to be able to determine today, how much am I spending, or how much have I spent, and on what did I spend it. It is only when you have this, and then you can look back and then suddenly realize that you spent maybe 20% of your income on airtime, or you spent 30% of your income on giving financial assistance to people. It is then you can begin to manage, cut here, add here, increase there. You might realize you didn't make any investment. So that's just it. Discipline and tracking. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lawi. It looks like we have a question. Thank you, Lawi. Thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen around the call, if we were to have a conversation around doing business in an ethical way and talking about ethics, one person that we'll call upon to talk to us will be Mr. Rotimi Lawi. Thank you very much for joining us. Mr. Theo, can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Loud and clear.
Thank you so much. There's a question on Facebook. I was going to ask one of the questions that we have been asked before, but let's take this one. The gentleman says, thank you for talking about financial freedom. It's good, but I want to know, is there any particular position that someone should reach in life before fighting for financial freedom? Because things have not been so easy for us, which makes me think as if there is a certain age limit that one must get to earn financial freedom.
Okay.
Can't you carry this one on top?
Okay, you want me to?
Please put yourself on mute, everybody, except Mr. Tio. Please put yourself on mute. Yes, did you hear the question?
Yes, the bottom line is saying if there is any particular age limit. There's no age limit. That's as long as you are earning an income or you earn something. I also saw a question that so I would answer both in the same way. Somebody asked what would be our advice for somebody who does not have a job. There's no age limitation, as long as there are some professionals that advise that you retire early, and retiring early means that you have some level of financial freedom for you to want to go away, either paid employment or working for somebody. So the earlier we get to achieve that, as long as you are making some sort of income. Yes, it may not be $1 million, it may not be $500,000, it may not be 1 million naira, but as long as you are earning something and you are of certain age, the principle is that put something aside every day, or your income. Make sure that you are prudent with the way you spend the money that you have earned legitimately. So there's no age limit. There's no age limit, and there's no limit to how much you earn. I was listening to television somewhere as a result of this COVID-19. And I think one of the TV channels took us to a young man who is a bricklayer, and they earn on a daily basis. I also sat somewhere someday. I was printing some work. I was doing some printing job. And these women who come to collect what they call a susu, they go about from shop to shop, and 500 naira, 200 naira. You know, at the end of the day, it adds to something. It's not the amount that you put aside that's the issue. It's the consistency. Like Mr. Lawi said, it's the discipline, the determination that I want to have something set aside from my income. For the man who does not have a job, a paid job, I want to believe, we don't have to wait for the paid employment. There are lots and lots of opportunities that we can do. Yes, all of us can have the paid jobs. Unfortunately, it's a reality. We must face that reality that we can't get the white collar jobs everywhere. But there'll be one thing or the other for us to do. I sat in a barbering salon one day, and let me also say it. When I go to the barbering salon, and they are very smart at it, they say this section is a VIP section. The barbing clipper is the same. The man who will barb you is the same, but they just made something little more comfortable for you, and you pay him far more than every other person. And I don't succumb to that. I feel that is they're playing on my mental intelligence, and I don't fall to that. I'll sit where everybody else is sitting, and I have a haircut, and I save 4,000 or 5,000 naira from that action, which I can decide to put aside. But every day we go there, some people will go into that luxury corner, so to say, and sit there for 5, 10, 15 minutes, and you pay far more than it. So we can, what was I saying? A lady walked in, and she was holding cosmetics for women. And I asked her, she said she was serving, that's to say she was doing her youth service. In order to make additional money, she was going from shop to shop, selling these things. You know, of course, if people were not buying, because some persons may not go to the shops, people would buy. If people were not buying, she would not do that. And it gave her satisfaction and happiness. At the end of the day, she's working for it, you know. And from there, in a few years' time, I hope and I believe, we would hear her tell her story. So we don't have to wait for the paid job. We have to go out, you know, and do something that will give us income. And from there, we can begin to now diversify. The guy who is not employed, tomorrow can be the employer of thousands of people. Thank you so much. I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, Mr. Theo, we do have more questions. So I'll just say maybe we should try
to keep them. All right.
Be, very brief with the responses. There are quite a number of questions here. There's one that I want you to deal with, because you did say that we should run away from debts like it's a virus. And I like that analogy. I've always talked about borrowing on my website and my articles, but asking us to use the word virus means you don't even want it near you in any form. Another chartered accountant around the call sent us a question and said, is debt completely bad? And I want you to talk briefly about that. We've talked about it on the website, we have articles there, but you and I know that, I leave the question to you, but is debt completely bad? That's what the gentleman wants you to talk about.
Yes, I know that, hello?
Hello, yes, I can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay, there was a caveat in what I said. I said avoid debt as much as possible, unless it is absolutely necessary. Now, for the sake of emphasis, debt is not completely bad. Debt is good if you're using it to finance an asset. If you are using it to finance an investment that you are sure that will bring returns, that will pay both the principal and the interest. Do not use, for instance, debt to borrow money to buy a vehicle that it's for private use. It doesn't make sense. Do not use debt. People borrow money for weddings. People borrow money for holiday. These are things that are not necessary. I'm not saying wedding is bad. Wedding is good, but stay within your affordability. If it's a one sachet of pure water you can give to the people to drink, so be it. You know, so that's where it is. If you have to use debt to finance an asset, to finance an investment, it is okay. It is fine, as long as the income, what you will get from it, would exceed what you are paying and has the ability to pay back. For the sake of time, I'll stop there.
Thank you very much, Mr. Theo. Just, I would like you to give a quick response to this question. Somebody is asking, because you recommended multiplicity of sources of income, you know, multiple sources of income. And the gentleman says, what percentage of my current income do you think I should invest in a side business?
Yes, I would always say yes. I would always say yes. I would always say yes, as long as you have assessed the risks involved in the business. As long as you have assessed the risk, that you know that you have measured the risk and you know that the business has the ability to generate additional income. Why not? Please go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. There are two questions that I'm going to put together as one. Somebody says, you talked about diversification of the income, which I understand to be earning passive income. Can you suggest possible outlets? Please, can you suggest some passive streams of income? And then another question, which is similar to that, says, I understand the essence of savings, but the dynamics these days has shown that savings itself is not ideal. I'm sure he's talking or she's talking about, you know, the interest rates and all of that. The way to go is investment. My question now is, given the meltdown in the general economy, what can be considered to be worthwhile investments? So somebody says, what kind of passive income should they pursue? Another person says, what do you consider to be worthwhile investment?
Let me come from the investment perspective. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Hello?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Okay, let me answer the investment question quickly. It's difficult for one to sit here or anywhere to say, please go and invest in that, invest in this, because it is, there are so many things that come into play. Some persons are risk averse, you know, and depending on your age, to say that if you are somebody that is risk averse, they are scared of risk, you may not want to go into certain investments. You know, if you are of a certain age, you may want to just rely on the, for instance, stock. You may just want something that will not make your blood pressure to pump as high as a young man of 30 years, 35 years. If you are in the 60-year age bracket, you want something that is assured, maybe the federal government's investments and rest of them. So you need to be the one to decide to say, which investment would I go into? It is personalized, so it's difficult for one to sit down and say, please do this, don't do that, don't do this. It has to be on a personal basis. It's difficult for one to generalize in a forum like this. Passive income, yes, it's you have to look at the investment opportunities that are valuable to you. Again, the risk that is attached to it. Do not be carried away with the promise of very high investment returns. There are people who would come and tell you, like we had the cases of the Ponzi programs that failed, that where you put money today and 1 week from now you get 100% investment, return on your investment, which is very unlikely. So be careful on where you put your money that's legitimate money. Again, I say it again, legitimate income that you've earned and you worked hard for it and you earn it. Be careful, don't be carried away by the sweet talks of 100% return on your investment in just a very short period of time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Theo. Just to take some contributions and then I will come back to another question. One of our professional colleagues around the call was commended the response to the debt question and said that was well answered, because the emphasis should be on the use of the debt, which is what you highlighted. There's also a contribution around the call. There's a local myth saying that if you have money saved up somewhere, which you can always access, the money will look for where to go to or what it will be spent on. This is a challenge most people have and do not know where or what to invest money in, especially in Nigeria. There's a fear component of losing all your savings if invested wrongly too. Thank you, Mr. Mejire, for that comment. One of the things that Mr. Theo and myself discussed is how we would have a window to really talk about investments, the risks of investments, diversification of investments, and the general principles around investments, what people need to do, and the different kind of investment outlets that will be open to different levels. Of course, there are millionaires and billionaires who want to get richer, and then there are the young ones who are struggling that want to, get to a very comfortable place in life. So we'd have a session in future about that. But there are resources online, and to be honest, there's so many things on the Finance Coach BK website, some articles that are there that can help you. And we are always available to answer questions, and we're offering this as a free resource for now and right now to help in our own way of giving back. If it's something that I don't understand or can't answer, I would of course reach out to my wide network of professional colleagues and experienced people in my network, like Mr. Theo. So we're going to talk about investments at some point later, and I just want to ask everybody around the call to watch out for that session. I don't know. Okay, there are some questions now. Just a comment from the call. We're talking about debt, and you passed a comment about not borrowing to buy a car. And this question comes from somebody who is based in the UK. That would be also another session. If we were talking to majority of people, if we thought the majority of the people in the audience were non-residents in Nigeria, I'm sure that their approach to some of the points and some of the issues will be different. We are aware that people who live abroad live on, basically on credit. And so the focus will be then on how you manage your credit better, and whether you're indeed ready to take a loan to buy a car. Let me take other questions, Mr. Theo. I just thought to read those comments to you. Now, somebody has asked a question that says, what are your thoughts on group contributions, where participants take contributions in turn and start paying back sooner or later? I think that is what we call a susu here. And this question is from someone based in London. Mr. Theo.
Okay, you want me to answer?
Oh yes, a question for you. What's your thoughts around people contributing money and then paying back later?
Okay, yes.
The regular traditional contribution.
Yes. Before then, we talked about debt and debt financing.
For someone
and the car.
Abroad, yeah.
And then somebody in UK. Whether it is in Nigeria, whether it's in the UK, whether it is in New Zealand, whether it's in the moon, if people live there, the principles are the same. The principles don't change. The principle is that do not take a loan, do not go into debt unless it is profitable, unless you have looked at the risk and the returns. For the guy in UK, if I were you, I would look at, I know that UK has the best public transportation in the whole world. Fantastic network of transportation. I know that there's a cost and inconvenience in it. Is it better for me? Is it more profitable for me? I look at my finances and the streams of income that I have. Why do I need a car? Those are basic questions that I will ask. So the principles are the same everywhere. And if you are earning £1,000, for instance, and your debt service, it's £850, I mean, it doesn't make sense. Whereas you can hop into a bus or the tube or the train, and the whole month, perhaps you spend 500 naira, and maybe you are a single person, So you need to look at the dynamics of all of that. Somebody also asked if you're already in debt. Yes, if you're already in debt, it's to assess your ability to pay and try to pay them down as soon as possible. Start with the ones that have the highest interest. The highest interest expense. Start with those ones, because that's what is taking a whole lot of your money, monthly income or whatever income that you earn. So start to repay that. Fantastic. If you have a group savings scheme, it is very, very fantastic. It's a good, it's commendable. However, make sure that the people that you are dealing with are credible people. We've also had experiences. I've had a personal experience where it came to my turn and I didn't see the money. People started, one or two persons started giving excuses. So it defeats the purpose. So if you are dealing with credible people, yes, it's commendable, and it makes sure that it's more of a compulsory savings for you. If you have to save, if you are somebody that relies on your major income is a monthly paid salary, look for avenues where you can have compulsory savings. Maybe a direct debit from your bank, and with instructions that maybe should not be available to you for a period of time. I found myself in that situation where I currently work is a compulsory savings scheme. I had some difficulties at a point. If I wasn't into that scheme, I probably would not have anything, because all kinds of demands will come on a monthly basis. You know, like Mr. Lawi said, and for emphasis, is discipline. You need to be disciplined. You need to be determined. You need to sacrifice today for tomorrow. You need to sacrifice today for tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Theo. We cannot thank you enough. The questions keep popping in. I want to encourage everybody around the call to send in your questions to financecoachtoday@gmail.com or any of the emails where you got the link from. We are accessible online. The handle on Instagram is Finance Coach Today, and Facebook is Finance Coach Wealth and Money. There's a comment, and which is very valid. We've approached this conversation, with a Nigerian focus. In Nigeria, we are not yet a credit, run economy like it is abroad, because the confusion, the comments that has come in is that in places like the UK or Canada or America, you are encouraged to borrow in order to build up what they call your credit rating. Somebody has also asked in the comment section that some people are already in debt, and this person is also based abroad. That many people are in debt, and that we should try and have a session on managing debt. Without overstretching the first comment about building up credit, the principle that Mr. Theo talked about does not change. You have to be in control of your money, because most of the offers that they give abroad for the borrowing and all the credit offers that they give to you, some of them you don't need. I'm aware of people who are so disciplined that even in spite of what the government of the UK is offering as palliative measures for the COVID-19 effect, they have looked at themselves and their circumstances and have said, look, I'm not going to take this loan they're offering, because it's still going to be a loan down the road. I'm not going to borrow this money that they're offering me. I'm not going to postpone my mortgage repayment because of COVID. If they're in a position to continue to make their payments, then it does make sense for them to make the mortgage payment, because down the road, the problem is going to be there for you. So yes, those societies and those economies encourage you to have to borrow, and because of your credit rating, but they encourage you to take the loans and the facilities, and they monitor your ability to repay at the right time, which boils down to what Mr. Theo was talking about. You have to be in control, you have to be disciplined, just like Mr. Lawi said. So it's all one vicious circle. They're all interwoven. I've taken all the feedback from the comment areas. We're going to have sessions on investment. Some people are interested in, you're talking to us about investment. Tell us about outlets. we said this is just, according to Mr. Theo, he called it groundbreaking. It's just laying the foundation. We're going to have sessions that will be specific to some of these areas that you all have talked about: debt management, investment, savings outlets, and then multiple sources of income. Thank you very much, everybody. I think there are some comments. I don't know if there are comments or questions. Okay. Yeah, we're going to talk about that later. Any final word from you, Mr. Theo?
Yes, and the final word. The final word is for us to go back, look at our finances, and ensure that we are in good shape. Let us try to keep safe. That we have in our hands. Let's try to respect all of that, so that all of us can be alive and well for the next and other sessions that will be coming. I'd like to thank everyone for listening to me. I do not claim to know everything. Nobody knows everything. They're only rubbing minds. As I speak to you, I'm also speaking to myself. Thank you so much, and I look forward to meeting you some other time. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Theo. Thank you to everybody around the call. Thank you to the ladies and gentlemen who have encouraged the Finance Coach BK financial literacy platform. Thank you for all your encouragement. Thank you to the team behind the scene, Gabriel Ogunleye, Edison. I can't call all your names, but thank you so much, Tomi Olatunde, all those that keep pushing Mrs. Kamalafe to do this and to do that. Thank you to everyone who has supported this course. The recording will be available on Facebook. There are many resources online. Follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and let's see how we can make a difference with just this little contribution. Thank you so much.